and we're here on Vibrational Perspectives. And I'm here with my co-host, Lori Vick, and we're really glad that you joined us today. We're going to be live broadcasting here on Facebook, and then tomorrow night we'll also be broadcasting on Astronet Radio. So we'll be doing a dual broadcasting. We'll need to be breaking for commercial breaks, but just bear with us on that little bit of technical adjustment. Lori, it's good to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Heidi. I love where we are right now. I love this room. Yeah.
We are here at Vitae Pondera, Institute of Integrative Health. Actually, this is an old, it's 117 years old, historical home built by Occupy, and birthplace of I'm a Hog. We have a new little format that's starting, Lori. I don't think I told you about it.
Let's hear it.
We're doing a show with metaphysical women of East Texas,
Okay.
and we're calling it Views from Hogwarts. And the name Hogwarts is Hogg from Governor Hogg, and also of I'm a Hog, who was born here on the property. And Worts, W-O-R-T, as in herbal botanical
I love it.
remedies.
Okay.
So we are going to be broadcasting Views from Hogwarts, and we'll get a wonderful little diversity of all beautiful women who practice natural health and metaphysical theology and philosophies and
Yes.
different diverse spiritual paths.
I know many of those women.
There's a lot of women in
Yes.
Texas.
Well, the ladies that I know that I've met here through you are amazing.
They're beautiful.
Yes. Beautiful, uplifting. So if y'all are going to do a show, girl, I'm in.
Yeah, good.
I will follow that show. I will follow that show.
We would love to have you with us. I have a sad story.
Okay.
Sad story. People, well, it's about living in East Texas in a big old house with lots of really big trees. And for one, I love the elements. So when the wind is blowing and we're having a storm, all the doors fly open in my house so that I can just get that wonderful, wonderful smell of rain and wind. So we had all this rain, all these tornadoes and stuff in the night. And so I thought it'd be a great idea just to open my second story office door. It goes out to a veranda. Open it up and just let the wonderful air in and rejuvenate the energy in it. Well, I did, so I left the door open all night long. And when I went in the next day, I have 3 aquariums with little betas. And I had my cat in there, and she literally lives in my office. So my cat was in there. She seemed fine, but her bowls, her water bowl was on the floor. Papers were scattered everywhere. And I looked, and one of my fish, the top was open and the fish was not there.
Oh.
So I didn't know what to make of it.
Right.
I was very sad. My fish was gone. I knew it had probably gotten either eaten or it had been sucked up into another dimension. And so my cat wasn't telling anything. So I went ahead and I cleaned everything up. We got more rain, and I opened the door, went back the second day, and everything was in even worse shambles, and the other 2 aquariums had been opened, and the fish were gone.
This is
sad.
Intriguing and terrible.
I surmised that because it was so close to the trees and the balcony and the veranda and all of that all open, that a family of raccoons had gotten into my office, strung away. I had 3 pair of earplugs that had been chewed in half.
It was either raccoons or a 2-year-old. Which one?
Well, would 2-year-olds
Yeah,
eat fish? I don't know. So the fish are gone. I'm sad. I'm very sad. But I've learned I cannot leave my office open to the elements or to the raccoons.
Yes.
I know that's what happened.
Because
I don't think
bad
possums.
things can happen.
I don't think possums would do that, but I know raccoons would.
Being rejuvenated by the air of a storm is something that I 100% relate to, and I love the feeling of the wind that precedes a big storm. We've had a lot of big storms here in East Texas in the last week. In the last 2 weeks, we've had a lot of wind. But there is something very magical about this wind that has traveled so much distance and has blown through so many towns with so many other people and so many different just scenarios along the way. And it is energy. It's very beautiful. And you know what I think about, which we're maybe getting off a little bit, but I think this is good. I think it's good because what I think about when that wind goes through me, you have to be outside for that to happen. You have to be in a position where that can occur. And that's intentional. That's intentional to go where the energy leads, to go where the energy is.
I can be in a dark place in my mind, and if I'm around water, any of the elements, if I'm around candles, beautiful smells, wind or air,
it's a reset.
It is a reset, and walking around barefoot.
Yes,
that's the
the only time I wear shoes is for this.
Or
when I'm running, which requires running shoes. But other than that, I wear barefoot all the time.
That's good.
Yes.
So today I thought we would talk about a subject matter that has gone through my mind many mornings when I make up the bed. You know, when I'm making up the bed, I get these really profound thoughts, and I'll be planning my day, and everything I plan to do for that day is far more than any one person can do in one day, but I'm going to get it done, one way or another. And I was thinking about, I do a lot of self-reflection, and I thought, isn't it interesting how in addiction, because I think we all can probably, if we were to be honest with ourselves, we all have a little bit of that addictive nature in our makeup. To whatever extent, I don't know, but we do, because our brains have a point of, a center point of immediate gratification and pleasure, because of those pleasure centers sometimes go a little bit haywire. I know I have always had an addictive personality, more behavioral than chemical. Mine has not been chemical, but it has been behavioral. And so I thought, you know, I don't want to lose those beautiful those traits, because they are what has really given me a lot of motivation, and that obsessive compulsive back and forth of being a thought form coming into form. When you think about it, obsessive compulsion is a negative terminology that has really been, it's been formed, but when you think about it, when you turn it over into its positive, it is actually the intent of thought, thought form, and form. You start with a thought of obsession, it gets out of control, and then
takes over.
And as it takes over, it becomes form or action or behavior. And so I was thinking, isn't it interesting, or isn't it a gift, how we all have the power to take those obsessive compulsive behavioral addictive patterns and turn them around
Yes.
to make them into the very wonderful traits of success
Yes.
and accomplishment and
Yes.
achievement.
The wheels that turn the train.
Yes.
Yes.
I was asked by someone, how in the world did you achieve what you have achieved in such a short amount of time?
Yes.
And I had to tell them I was neurotic.
It's true.
I was
It's
neurotic.
true. There's
I was neurotic, and I did so despite myself. It was either this or get in a lot of trouble.
True. I know.
So
I understand.
that's what we're going to talk about today.
I love
And
that
I
you're
thought
talking about that.
it would just be a fun thing, and it's something that we all can self-reflect and put ourselves in that place.
Yes. I would just go out on a limb and ask you to share how much time it's taken you and how many degrees you have in that time frame. Because I brag on you all the time. You've got extra degrees. You've got a lot more qualifications than many do in your position. And I always sing your praises because we're very lucky to have you here, but I want you to brag on yourself. Tell me and tell everybody how long it took you to do what you've done.
In 2001, I was at my lowest point, health.
Yes.
It's as a health condition. I was having 10 to 12 grand mal seizures per day, and I couldn't get out of this constant chronic vegetative state, just constantly staying in these really violent seizures.
Yes.
So it took me about a 7-year period to heal. But within that 7-year period to heal, I had to go to school to heal, to self-heal.
To know what
to do, right. So I was actually, I was diagnosed with treatment-resistant epilepsy, bipolar, and Tourette syndrome. Those are the three things I was
the diagnosis.
The medical,
Right.
And so with that, I just decided that I was going to take responsibility for this, that it really wasn't anybody else's responsibility. So to answer your question, I started on online classes in 2005. And in a 12-year period, I earned a bachelor's, a master's, and 2 doctorate degrees.
Girl, I love that. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you really, the thing that stuck out to me when we first met and you shared your story with me was the fact that all the treatments that were available to you, to anybody, were available to you through the allopathic medical world. You were doing all the things that they said to do. So all the things that you were doing were not changing your condition. If anything, your condition was getting worse.
Right.
You weren't improving in any way. You were just suspended where you were.
And suspension is a good word. I went through 8 neurologists, 2 epileptologists, and 2 neuropsychiatrists. And and all the doctors, I can say all the doctors that I went with were good doctors.
Yes.
There was nothing wrong with the medical help I got. I had every advantage possible. I had care from teaching universities, multiple teaching universities. I was put on lists for experimental drugs, the whole thing. I was there. And but the best doctor I ever had looked at me one day and he said, well, Heidi, he said, I've stopped telling you what to do because I think it's best if you tell me what you think we need to do.
Right, because you're
Yeah, he was so good.
we're starting.
And he said, how are you? And I said, well, I don't know, because I'd had a pretty hard month at that time. And he said, well, he says, you're not dead and you're not in jail. He said, aside from that, there's a lot of hope.
That's good.
Wasn't that great?
Yes, you were still
And
breathing.
yes,
There is hope.
that was the last doctor I had, and so with him, I could see that it was probably time for me to take responsibility, and
Yes.
it was not the doctor's responsibility to heal me.
Yes.
That's a responsibility and accountability that we have for ourselves in our own
Which many
self-care.
people don't find that place.
Mhm.
That's what you're here to share. What I hear you
Mhm.
sharing right now is something so powerful that we do have that power.
Mhm.
There are other ways. I say all the time, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah.
And it is a practice for a reason in every arena of medical or otherwise,
Mhm.
because we have to see because all humans are not exactly alike.
Mhm.
So to be resistant to treatment in your condition
Mhm.
meant you were in suspension for until,
Mhm.
and you chose to tap into that personal power and go out on a limb and say, none of this is working. What do I have to lose? Which is really the mindset that I heard you tell me, that's where you were. I have nothing to lose. These ways aren't working.
Right.
And to choose something else, not knowing whether or not it was going to work for you.
It didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
I didn't have
no
any
reason not
choice.
to. It was a beautiful.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful gamble.
It was to me a gamble with very few risks.
True.
Because I had been through so much that I had been through probably anywhere from 15 to 20 different pharmaceuticals.
Yes.
And it was just like batting moles,
Yes.
Every time you batted one, 2 or 3 would pop up. And
Right.
It was constantly
Whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole. It was a whack-a-mole.
Perfect whack-a-mole.
Yes, it was, and it wasn't getting anywhere. So,
right.
So it was really not a great risk,
No, and so what the beautiful thing that you found was something that you were able then to realize it was your testimony. It worked on you, and these were ways that you wanted to share with others. So a baby was born. A baby career was born, but to achieve 5 degrees in 12 years time span, 5 postgraduate degrees, that required you to be what you term yourself as neurotic, but very obsessive compulsive is now a diagnosis for people in the world. But what we're saying is, what we're agreeing on is that it is the way you're woven together to have, a driven personality, or to have a very strong drive to achieve one way or another, whether it's getting into trouble or doing something good. Use your powers for good. This is what I know. This is what my mama told me. But that's what happened. You laser focused on that one thing, which was being healed. Healed, whatever that looked like. And as you began to heal, you became inspired and motivated, and really like a new person is born, really.
Yeah. Okay, it's my turn now.
Tell it. I want to hear it.
This is why we're such good friends.
Yes.
Because when I met you, I thought, oh, there's a woman I understand.
Yes.
There's a woman I understand. There's a woman that I get. I get her motivation.
Yes.
I get the energy behind high achievement. So at some time, I want you to jump in when you're ready to talk about how that happened with you as well.
Yes.
So basically, what we're talking about, I don't want anybody to misunderstand. We're not giving advice or counseling or anything regarding addiction. We're not, this is not our line of services. We're not licensed counselors. This is not what we're doing.
True.
This is just simply our sharing of thoughts of these personality traits of addiction and how a person who is going through recovery
Yes.
can embrace the wonderful qualities that they have developed, tools that they have developed by covering themselves
Yes.
through their addiction, because I can tell you there's nothing like addiction skills in survival.
Yes.
Really.
It's true.
Good life skills. If you can get through addiction, or you can get through recovery,
Yes.
because those skills have been set. It's just a matter of being able to apply those skills
Yes.
for the success of your recovery.
Yes. Which I must say requires forgiveness of yourself.
I like
First,
that. Yes, it does.
You have to be forgiving of yourself, whatever the issue is that you're forgiving yourself from. You know, whatever the addiction is, or whatever the issue is, it requires forgiveness of yourself so that you believe you're worth using those tools for good. So you don't think you're flawed because you have a certain way that you think or how you feel about things is not exactly like all the other people, because it's not necessarily rare, but it's unique, and it's unique in each individual person. Thank God we have each other.
Right. And I think too, forgiveness is not lacking of accountability. I think you have, in order to forgive yourself, I think you have to come to that place of full accountability. Otherwise, self-forgiveness is really not something that you can fully realize.
True.
You have to acknowledge, you have to take accountability and responsibility for that which deems to be forgiven.
Yes.
Self-forgiven.
It is true.
So, with that being said, I think we're going to take a commercial break.
Yes.
We need to do this for Astronet Radio, and so we're going to be coming back in just a few minutes. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah. Heidi.
Thank you very much. I'm Heidi Hoke, and we're back at for Astronet Radio and also for Vibrational Perspectives. Thank you for joining us on Facebook Live, and we'll be also broadcasting this on Astronet on Thursday at 7 p.m. Thank you for joining me today, Lori.
Thank you
This
for
is
having me.
Lori Vick, my co-host, and today we're talking about addiction in a little different way. We're talking about the recovery and how we can take the personality traits of addiction and turn those around into the very personality traits that help us to succeed and recover.
Yes.
I've got to tell you that what motivated me to do the show was my husband, who is a mechanical engineer. He has a favorite motto, quote, and I use it often because I find it applies to just about everything we do.
Yes.
If you can't fix it, feature it. There's many things that we can't fix. A lot of things that we can't fix. But we can take what we cannot fix and feature it to the best of our advantage.
Yes. Acknowledge it. Let it grow. Let it develop. All those things. I love it. Okay, so I love that you made this list for us.
Yeah, I did a little cheat
And
sheet.
I think because this really sums up along the way all the variety of traits that we discussed earlier.
So I'm taking five traits that we would associate with addiction. That would be pessimism, selfishness, self-doubt, impatience, and people-pleasing. But delight is every one of these are the fundamental brainchild, literally the brainchild
Yes.
of the adult that flourishes as we develop out of our illness. So,
Yes.
so to take the first one, pessimism turned to realistic outcome.
Mhm.
Do you have a comment about that?
Yes, so pessimism turned to optimism. You know what I keep thinking in my mind while we talk about this, one of the, about all of these, about all 5 of these, I love that it really is the crossroads or the juncture at which we make a conscious choice to be bitter or better.
Ooh,
Yes.
I like that.
So whether it happens when you're 25, which is, I don't know about that. Mine was when I was 50.
Yeah.
You know, when I was 50, I turned 50 and I said, I woke up today and I'm a grown up finally. You know, now no one can tell me what to do and I do what I want, and it's a beautiful thing. And really what that meant to me was really forgiveness, as we talked about before the break, forgiveness of myself for not being perfect in every single thing I ever tried on the planet for 50 years. It boiled down to me acknowledging that really my own approval was the most important approval of all. And before I really had that realization, I had heard people say, you're enough. When you realize you're enough, that's good enough. You'll be on your way to so much more freedom. And because of the way I was raised, with a lot of mindsets that were, I guess, controversial to that, or the opposite of that, that you're not supposed to rely on yourself like that. You're not supposed to see yourself in a light where you could be enough. You're always supposed to be not enough. You're not supposed to be sufficient for all the things. And that's not but the difference is I acknowledge a creator who is amazing, and he's my God, and I love him with all my heart. And he created me to feel to feel whole. He created me to feel whole on this planet. So to acknowledge these things that we have listed, and to acknowledge these things that we're discussing, it's really a beautiful thing. I love that you're sharing this, and I love that we can share this together, because I know that realization, the beginning of feeling like you're enough and coming to a place where you're a whole person, inside and out, mind, body, and spirit, that is a gift that really only we can give ourselves. No one else can do that for us. So to realize these traits that once held us back because of bad choices, and only bad to the degree that they weren't the best choices for us moving forward, but we didn't know the difference. That's where we are, and that's where we are now, talking about these various things. Pessimism on the first of the list, really just a way to view the world, and a way to view life, and a way to view yourself. So pessimistic would be pretty much a negative outlook, and a belief that we need to somehow medicate. And I don't mean that necessarily with any chemical going in the body, but medicate, whether that means escaping the moment because your mind is somewhere else, or getting lost in something else, just whatever that looks like, because it's different for everybody. And I'll speak to mine in a little bit when we get to the last one, balance. But when I think of it, that's what I think about, is that there is a moment in time when we are required to acknowledge, but that's not the end of it. It's the beginning of the change and the healing that is ours to be had, but we have to choose the path to healing. It doesn't find us. We literally have to go seeking it, and we have to find it.
How do you answer this argument? You'll hear this. I hear this a lot.
Okay.
don't expect anything good, and then you will never be disappointed.
I mean,
Oh wow, that just
Wow.
cuts me like a knife.
that's so sad.
It is sad.
That's true pessimism.
That's
That's a
true.
perfect example of pessimism because that is it.
And I think that is when you have thought form, and form goes wrong.
Yes.
Terribly, terribly wrong.
Yes.
And I think there's a difference between extreme high expectation and unrealistic expectation. I don't know. Now, see, even this is getting into a gray area. We could do a whole show on this.
Right.
Because what is unrealistic? We have no limitations.
We do not.
We really don't.
We do not.
So, is there such thing as unrealistic?
I
You know,
want to speak to that.
Okay, good.
I love
good.
that you're saying that so much because that is something I have thought of many times on long runs. I believe, like you said, and I know you believe the same, is that we have unlimited potential. But I think there is a way that we as human beings can set goals in an unhealthy way to the degree that they're so far reaching and we know it.
We know
so
it.
we can
See,
make
that's it.
excuses why we can't get there.
I think that's it. I think.
And wallow in the pity of why I can't
Yes,
do
exactly.
it.
You hit it. When we make expectations that we know
Yes.
are not achievable.
Yes.
But
or that we really don't want to achieve.
We don't even want to achieve.
Because, like, here's an example. I'm doing biking right now with my son Lawson. He's an excellent competitive biker. He's #1 in the state of, in NICA right now for his division. That's my little shout out to my little man Lawson. Good job, Lawson. But he is such a strict biking coach, and I am not up to snuff with all the numbers of how fast I should ride and all those things. But the discussion that we've had is this. I'm unrealistically confident in myself all the time. So if I think it, I always think I can do it.
Yeah.
So that's why if it's something I really don't want to do the work to achieve, I don't think about it. I don't want it. I don't set it as a goal. Riding really, really fast, like 20 miles an hour, which is what the kids do, it's not unachievable by me, but I don't want to hurt bad enough to get there. Yeah. That is something I don't want to do. And I think it's so, and that's just, that isn't just a little bit, but honestly, I think it's so important for us to make that acknowledgement. The changes in thinking is we have unlimited potential, but are you willing to do what it takes to achieve that goal? And if you're not willing, that's where the disconnect is, because you have to acknowledge that it's your willingness that needs to change or your goal needs to change, but it doesn't mean you can't achieve that goal.
Exactly. So if you're not willing, it's okay.
It's completely okay. I don't want to hurt that bad. It's okay. Accept it. You can't change what I want.
So if you decide that,
yes,
then you don't really know feeling. You haven't failed. You haven't failed at something that you're not choosing to do.
It's absolutely
failure.
True.
It's your choice.
Absolutely.
It's liberation.
It is freedom.
It's freedom and liberation.
In our own skin.
Right.
It is freedom.
That's good.
Yes.
That's a good point.
Yes. Okay.
So then we're going to go to selfishness, turn to self-respect and self-care.
Oh gosh, this is huge.
It is huge.
We like to tell the breaks.
How many times do we really confuse being selfish or thinking that we're being selfish for simply wanting to self-care?
Or even further, we think we're selfless when we're really selfish.
Yes.
We disguised in the early
self.
Oh,
that's a good one. Talk about that more.
Okay. So in the early self, the pre, what are we gonna? It's like we have two phases that we're talking about here. So the addiction phase, which would be the person that hasn't acknowledged their true potential yet.
Mhm.
and then the recovery phase,
Right.
or the growth phase.
Right.
So in the addiction phase, or the pre-acknowledgement, we have selfishness turned to self-respect and self-care. But I think that, and gosh, I'm stepping on some toes, girl, when I say this out loud, but I know, it takes one to know it. Selflessness is what we tell ourselves when we pour 100% of our energy in and into someone else or everyone else or everything else, and we let our health decline, and we let our mind decline, and we let our lives decline,
Yes.
really the details of our lives, and yet we're telling ourselves this is okay and correct because I'm doing everything for everybody else. But the reality of that situation is and I see a lot of that. I see the aftermath of it, and that's why I'm very passionate about it. And because I've been there, done that. I'm 52 years old. I've pretty much had a few phases already, over and over. But I see that, and I know it when I see it, and it is very destructive. Because honestly, the number one priority is self-love, self-care, self-respect. That's going to be the driving force to all the other ways that we think about moving forward. If we're worth it, if we're even worth it, we have to decide that. So to care for our health, that's what I think of when I think of self-care. I really think of a ritualistic way to care for ourselves every single day.
That's important.
Yes, physically, mentally, and emotional. There's really not 2 days in a row where you should go. The way I feel now, and the way I'm living my life now, and what I know to be true for myself is that there really can't be 2 days in a row where that ritualistic self-care pattern doesn't happen or shouldn't happen. And I call it ritualistic just because I wake and do the same, healthy things, and I just all throughout the day have a way that I do things. And if I go somewhere else, I carry that with me. I, carry baggies of my supplements or food preps or whatever that looks like. If it's, meditations I have to do, but we aren't promised tomorrow. So if I wake up today and I'm alive and breathing and the sun is shining on me, I better make the most of it. I have to do it.
It's our responsibility.
It's a responsibility. It is an expression of gratitude.
Oh, yes, it's gratitude.
Yes, it's saying thank you that I've got one more day, just one more day. And I'm going to make the most of this one more day, or this next one more hour. Let it be good.
We all have days where we're depressed.
Yes, true. Absolutely.
Everybody does it. What do you do when you're depressed?
So I lived a lot of years, from my young years all the way up into my, really just, in the last decade. Where I believed that the way I woke up feeling was 100% indicator of the kind of day that I was meant to have. That I had no control, that my emotions were 100% in control of me. So if I felt depressed, I had to act depressed, I had to feel depressed, I had to be depressed. And I have a lot of theories about those times in my life, but I think there was a lot of physical elements that came into play there. I think, I had a lot of food allergies that weren't addressed. I think that my diet was not necessarily what it should have been. I was very young, and there was a lot less research. And the food has changed. I believe a lot of things have changed too. But I think there were a lot of physical elements. I think that there were a lot of times when I was depressed. It was during, my younger female hormone raging, growing and stuff like that. But I established a very solid pattern in those young years of allowing those emotions to control me, so that when life actually started to happen and depressing things actually entered my life, I really didn't have very good coping skills at all to manage depression. So if it wasn't a way to escape the feeling, I wasn't aware of it. I didn't know if anything out there really existed. So when so to answer your question, what do I do when I'm depressed? I'm gonna be really honest. I never consider myself depressed anymore.
It's good.
Because I think that after knowing what I know, after, going through my own healing over the years, and that's probably, I would say, the last time I acknowledged depression in my life is a good 15 years. It was like mid-30s or maybe early 40s. But really, I feel that since I've experienced healing in my life to the degree that I feel like a whole person walking around like I think God wants for me to have, I really don't acknowledge depression as a feeling anymore. If I feel off, not positive or not good or hopeful or just not sure of myself, I really try to find the root cause of it. And a lot of times I'll call you and try to get you to talk me down out of that tree, which you always do. But and I love that about us because we do understand each other. But I mean, so I try to reach out. I have coping skills now. So if it looks like depression, I don't call it that anymore, but I have a skill set to deal with it now, whereas I didn't have that before.
So I hear you saying too that you change the vibrational frequency of your words and your thoughts,
especially.
Okay, so that in and of itself is extremely powerful. Isn't it different? And there's probably a scale that would measure this. The vibrational frequency of the word depressed, or the vibrational frequency of the word off. So off would be at 0. Depressed would be sub-zero.
Takes so long.
So by the time you say you're off,
I know.
you've already been lifted.
Yes.
You've already chosen a higher level than the frequency would be associated with depression.
That's true. I love that.
That's good.
Yes. So that's a good one. That's good stuff. So we've pretty much taken that one all the way.
Yeah. Self-doubt turned to confident clarity.
Yes. Okay.
Did you already turn that?
Self-doubt turned to confident clarity. I don't know. We kind of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that self-doubt it's interwoven with awe. It's kind of the engine that pushes things along. Self-doubt, not believing in oneself, and turning it to confidence and clarity. To doubt ourselves, that's why we never trusted ourselves to set goals or to be able to achieve them or do the things required of us to achieve, or to have self-doubt. That's why we would rather, I'm going to step on more toes for a minute, hide behind caring for others above caring for ourselves. Because really, if you're going downhill from lack of self-care, it's almost like a cross that you get to bear, or you're a martyr in a certain way because it's a physical representation. You're declining health, you're declining everything. But you're so amazing because you've given up everything to take care of everyone else. There's really nothing positive about that. And I really want to, in the most compassionate way, because I've experienced it firsthand. So I don't say these things lightly, and I don't say it without the utmost respect and humility and compassion on every human being that hears my words, including myself, including the old me. I want her to be okay too, through the process. But it's not good. It's not a positive outcome to self-decline for all the reasons we just said. And self-doubt, I believe, is the engine that turns that, wheel, if you will, to keep going, because you don't believe in yourself. So it's almost connected with self-worth.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It is. I have a kind of a visual of the process that I remembered going through when I was pulling myself out of that.
Mm.
And it was when I began to have to make some changes in my spiritual paradigm,
Mm.
away from some traditional religious teachings
Yes.
that I had been brought up in.
Mm.
And, you know, no one else has, I certainly don't force these belief systems on anyone else, but it was what I had to come to.
Yes.
And that was that when I looked at in the mirror, I was looking at my complete blending and unification of God. So that when I looked at in that mirror, I saw a part of God.
Yes. That's what
I
He wants us
saw
to see.
God within me.
Yes.
That I didn't have to sit and wait for God to intervene.
Yes.
That God was intervening with me at that very
Every
moment when I looked in the mirror.
I love it.
And with that,
Mm.
I then became not concerned about the outcome.
Yes.
That it was whatever it was, the God within me was in control.
Yes.
It was the God within me was all powerful.
Yes.
And that I didn't have to be clear of the outcome.
Yes.
All I had to do was show up and have faith that the outcome would be. And it just would be.
I'm just
let
feeling
it be.
like you man in church because you don't want tears to mess up your mascara. I love it.
So that was kind of how I came to that one.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I've never heard you say that before, but I love it. That was great. Yeah.
We're going to stop for another commercial break.
Okay.
And we're really happy that you're joining us on Vibrational Perspectives on Astronet Radio and on Facebook. We'll be back. Thank you for joining us. You've just joined us on Vibrational Perspectives and with my co-host, Vick. And we're talking about addictions. We're talking about how we can take personality traits and with a little quote that I like to use, if you can't fix it, feature it. Mm-hmm. So we're featuring those very personality traits that feed the addiction to feed the success out of addiction.
I love it.
So now we're on the next one, impatience turned into self-motivation. And here we get into some anger.
I see that.
Anger issues.
Yes.
Anger issues. Allowing anger to work in our advantage.
Fit throwing.
Yes.
Tantrum throwing.
Tantrums.
If I can't have what I want right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm
Imitation.
Good fit thrower too. I've had the most amazing parties. They were pity parties, but still.
You're the only one that
I know. I was the only one there, but hey.
They were good parties.
I split hairs.
And who could say otherwise?
I know. Exactly. I was enough to say these are great parties, right? They're all me. So I don't want to interrupt what you're saying.
That was good.
I like it.
So how has impatience turned into self-motivation? I just got angry. I got angry at God one time, cussing out good.
Okay, but you made a choice. You know what? I want to make a connection as you share. Okay. You're saying you had a choice to either be mad and stay in your fit or be motivated to change it.
Well, I got angry that I was at the pinnacle. I got angry that at 43 years old, I was a sick woman. I was physically sick. And I felt like I was approaching past my prime of life.
Yes.
And wanting to have shared the fullness of parenthood, of career, of adult life. And I was so darn sick.
Yeah.
I was just so sick. And I was angry at my plight. And I knew I had the maturity at 43 though to know that falling into that victim was not going to be to my advantage.
Yes.
I couldn't fall into that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I simply took the anger into an element of if I don't have if I don't help myself out of this, nobody else will.
Right.
And that was when that what I talked about with the God within me.
Yes.
I knew full well I couldn't pray to the God out here. I had to pray to God here.
Right.
I had to work with the God within
really
me.
be connected, not
I
just
had to
throw
be
prayers out into an open nebula that you don't know anything about, not making
this black hole, and it
You
never
had a personal connection with your God that you wanted to
Mhm.
cultivate a personal relationship, which has to be you feel it
Mhm.
like a real relationship.
Yeah. And so I allowed myself to get angry. I allowed myself to feel that emotion. And then, okay, you've had your tantrum. Now what? Now what? Now let's get into business.
Yes.
And get yourself out of this.
Yes. So you had a plan.
Formed a plan.
You formed a plan that was fueled by anger, but
quickly
focused.
Quickly dissipated into
Yes.
excitement and motivation,
Yeah,
and finding the place, finding that place of light that I could follow.
Yes.
It's just like follow the light, follow the light,
Yes.
follow the light.
Oh gosh.
And so you follow the light, and you follow the light out of darkness.
It's so true. It's so true. It's so funny because this really, we did not talk about this before.
No.
And I knew it was going to go right to my heart because of the things that I'm experiencing right now. And what you're saying speaks 100% to that. So if I may, just for one moment, I'm to be very transparent. Experiencing the death of my mother, my little mama passed on March 18th, and that's only been 6 weeks ago. And I have been so blessed and so really lucky to have so many people. You have said goodbye to your mama, and you've been very instrumental in helping me and walking next to me during this time. I've had so many people that know how I felt. But there are feelings that have arisen that I wasn't prepared for. And one of those feelings, and this we haven't discussed it. This is 100% me, just saying what's on my heart. But one of the things I've experienced has been, I guess, to have that maternal tether disconnected from the earth. And I've been very lucky to have an amazing relationship with her, with my mama. So to have that severed right now, just not the relationship, but the physical connection to this planet is different. It's reformed. And to experience that right now, I have had moments where if they were called depression, they might have felt similar to a thing that you're not really sure how to work your way out of. But also feelings of the absurdity of life, if you will, or a feeling of disconnection of my own life, or what's the purpose in all of it, even though I know how to answer these questions, and I 100% know the answers and all the positive words. It's still feelings that you have to manage and deal with that are here that I've had to. I'm pretty sure I'm not alone. I'm pretty sure these are things that are pretty typical. To be with someone then when they take their last breath, whoever you are and whoever they are, it should impact us. And when it's someone really important to us, our feeling of we are mortal. We do take on another form and go to another life, which for me, heaven is probably really close. We just don't know how close it truly is because we're on this side, but maybe from the other side they see us and all is well. I'm pretty sure that's kind of how it goes. However, what you're saying really rings true with me because you said follow the light. And what I've developed over these last few weeks, it's really been an observation of myself and how I've already carried on for the last 15 years or so with that daily self-care routine and regimen. That is my light. Because to feel mortal or to feel a lack of power in this physical body that eventually gives up no matter what we do or how well we do it, because that is the plan, because that is what is true. To follow the light is to have a plan, a daily plan, and just a feeling, structure, and just to feel, I know what I can control. That's whether or not I drink the greens every day, whether or not I take the formulas from Heidi every day, or whatever that looks like. That's my light. And I've been in a position, I guess what I'm saying over the last few weeks, to have to find that again, or have to understand, maybe for the first time ever, to have to understand why these things were in place. Maybe they were here for me now. Maybe all these years I've been establishing all these patterns so that when I got here, I could do it and still carry on.
I find it particularly rewarding to think that when I first began this process, I was following the light for the next 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I was following the light then for the next 15 minutes, and then for the next hour, and then for today. And sometimes there are days where the light is only one day. Like, if you can just stay on that path one day, you're doing good because you've got another day. And when I begin to see the light go further and further and further and further, and it was a year, and then it was a lifetime, and it was then it's almost then like you're living in the light, and you don't have to struggle so hard to stay so pinpointed on that, because you just feel like you're walking.
Now you're at home in the light.
Home. Yeah.
I love it.
So let's see, we're almost out of time.
We are.
Let's do this very last one.
Let's do it
real quick. People pleasing to balanced compassion. We kind of did this a little bit with earlier, but go ahead with the selfishness.
Right. True. People pleasing and selfishness and all those things that we talked about earlier, and finding balance and compassion. People pleasing is selfish. People pleasing is selfish, egotistical, and
It's a form of control.
Yes, I'm great at that. I'm very good at that. And I, want to say that I'm in a different place now, but I 100% know what it looks like. And these are still little patterns that can become comfort zones over, if you are been there enough, you can find your way back easily and kind of make it harder to find your way out. But yes, people pleasing is in control. And so that to give an example, if someone else is sick and I'm caring for them, I feel amazing about that. But if I'm sick and someone tries to care for me when I'm down and incapable, that's difficult. I can now, but it's been a process to be able to receive. So giving puts me in control. Receiving, I have to acknowledge I'm not in control. And one thing I know is a beautiful gift I've received over the years, and that is to realize that when I allow someone to serve me the way I find pleasure and joy in serving someone else, and if I allow someone to do that for me, it's not about me. It's about them, and they get a gift to do the same that gives me joy. So to relinquish that control.
That's beautiful.
I guess finding balance then, to summarize that, is relinquishing some control over, I guess, the things that we can't, but we think we can.
Mhm. That's so nice. So with that, we're going to circle right back.
Yes.
In case you don't realize Vitae Pondera, when I named Vitae Pondera, I wanted to communicate balance.
Yes, life
And
balance.
Vitae Pondera is Latin for life balance. It is truly has been my own life motto, my own life mission, and to help others achieve that.
And you are doing it.
Thank you.
One thing we should mention just very briefly about Vick is the college, and things are, starting to look up in the future of the current status of things. So we do classes. We talk about all aspects of finding a balanced life.
Degree programs.
We
have commercial supplements, life balance nutraceuticals.
Yes, so there's all kinds of
practice.
And you have a practice, and we practice together.
That's great.
It is.
So we really appreciate you joining us today, Lori. Thank you for the good conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Heidi, for grab my hand.
Thank you so much.
I love you.
I love you too.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week on Vibrational Perspectives. Good night.
Yeah, well,
That went really well.
It turned into
Don't
what
you
I wanted
think?
to become. It became
I think it
everything